If you feel deeply confident in your craft and your ability to give good results to your clients, but you don't feel so confident about who you are as a business owner, or when it comes to marketing or messaging your work, then this doesn't really have much to do with your strategy, but rather it has to do with your identity. So if you know that you are a powerful guide or a powerful facilitator, you provide powerful support to your clients, but when it comes to naming your prices or even increasing your prices, when it comes to speaking confidently about your work, showing up authentically, and standing fully in your office, there's a little bit of hesitance over there. This is what identity work is for. My name is Tertia, and this is the Feminine Embodiment for Spiritual Business Owners podcast. It's a show where I teach you how to be more confidently visible, how to claim your feminine energy for success, and how to work in more embodied ways. In this episode today, we're going to dive into identity work, what it is and how you can start doing it right now after you have listened to this episode, because I'm going to share with you the framework that I teach my students in the Magnetic Visibility Accelerator. It's my 4-week program to become more confidently visible and have an easeful and profitable business. Let's start by identifying what is identity work. What do I mean when I say identity work? And I specifically lens this through feminine embodiment. I'm a certified feminine embodiment coach. And if you listen to my episodes, you'll know that to me, embodiment is the hill that I will die on. And I believe that embodiment is the missing skill that we need in order to step into the most actualized, successful, and satisfied versions of ourselves, not only in our businesses, but in our whole entire lives. When it comes to identity work has got everything to do with your self-concept. And identity work is then concerned about working with the beliefs and the programming and the conditioning and the narratives that you have around your self-concept, who you are. Where is your place in the world? What are you allowed, in quotation marks, what are you allowed to have? How people see you, how you see yourself, how you relate to yourself, and how you relate to others. So we have this image, this concept of who we are, and this concept is our northern star. It's how we make decisions in the world. It's how we interact with others. It's how we show up and how we express ourselves. We always do it in alignment with who we believe ourselves to be. And so if you want to step into a new level in your business, if you want to start attracting a different kind of client, if you want to take your business from only serving a few clients every month to maybe scaling it, or maybe even just start to have more consistency in terms of your income, this has to do with identity. Because if we are just going to employ strategies, let's say, for example, you go and learn a strategy on sales. So you learn the skill of selling. Fantastic and important strategy and skill to have when you have a business, of course. But if your concept, if how you relate to yourself has a conversation of, I don't like selling. Selling makes me feel icky. If this is the concept that you have, can you see that it doesn't matter what fantastic, wonderful sales strategy you try and employ, it's not going to work for you. You are going to find a way to prove and show to yourself that you aren't good at sales and that sales is not something that you enjoy doing, because it's actually our brains that do that. It's called confirmation bias. And what it does is it finds for us proof the whole time in our world. It goes and finds proof to confirm that that thing that we believe about ourselves, that thing that we say is true in terms of who we are, where we fit in, and what we're good at and what we're not good at. Its entire job is to prove us true. So this map that you have of the world, this perception that you have about who you are and your place in the world, they say it gets formed by around the age of 7. It's established and it's formed. But obviously, we don't stop living and experiencing by the age of 7. So as you go through life, the different experiences that you have, the exposure that you have to different situations, the things that happen to you, all of that will then expand and make the map that you have, like, anchor it in deeper and make it even more true for you. And if you then find yourself in a position that the things that you have in the world, the behaviors that you have, the results that you are getting is not the results that you want anymore, not only do we need to find a different way of doing things, i.e. get new skills and new strategies, but we also need to work on who we are being. What identity, what concept of self are we holding? Your concept of self, your identity, it's like a comfort zone, right? And when you want to go to the next level, when you want to step out of that and start calling in more premium clients, you need to be able to be in the rooms where the premium clients are. But if there's a part of you that feels that you don't belong there, can you see that even when you go to those rooms, even when you go to those places, even when you start calling those clients in, there is going to be dissonance. There's going to be a gap between who you desire to call into your world and who you believe yourself worthy of calling into your world. There are 2 layers to self-worth that is particularly of interest to me as a feminine embodiment coach. So the first layer is the personal worth that we hold, right? And this again comes from, as we grow up, our family systems and also the interactions that we have with others. So that's our personal self-worth. But there's also something called collective self-worth. And as women, our collective self-worth has been left wanting. In the business world, so often these qualities in business that are elevated and that are appreciated are all coded as masculine. So it's the structures and the logic and the strategy and the planning and the linear growth. And the more feminine qualities like the emotional intelligence and the relational aspects, the community aspects, the intuitive and more cyclical aspects that we have as women, that is often undervalued. And so often as women, we reject our own feminine qualities in order to survive and make it in business. And when I speak to our masculine and our feminine qualities, it has nothing to do with who we are as genders, but it has to do with the energy that we hold. Everybody, no matter what their gender, they hold both masculine and feminine energies. And by and large in the world today, in the business world and in our cultures, the masculine, we're very skilled in our masculine energy. We're very skilled in that growth, linear, forward moving, and we are not so skilled in our feminine. And so for us to step wholly and fully into this next level expression and to be fully seen in our businesses and to do well and to be well well paid to receive for our services, I believe that we need to inhabit all of who we are. And that means that we need to upskill our feminine. We need to bring these aspects of self, which has to do with our wild intelligence, which has to do with our intuition, which has to do with our ability to lean back and receive, and our magnetism. We need to bring that on board. And this is why, to me, when we do identity work, we need to do it with embodiment. So mindset work and affirmations can be really useful, but in my experience, they are not sustainable. It's almost like I always see it as you simply plastering something over what is true. We really want to work with what is alive in the body, what the nervous system holds around our concept of self, around our identity, and then unravel it from there. So this is the embodiment bit. I'm going to take you through the 5-step process now that I teach my students. It might be a good idea for you to write them down or to save this episode, listen to it again so that you can actually take yourself through these steps. The very first step is for you to get clear on what is the identity that you want to embody. Who is that version of you that you want to become? What is it that you desire for yourself? What goals is it that you have for your business? And it's important for us to get very clear on where it is that we are going, because it then begins to work as a GPS, so that your actions, your decisions, the way that you express yourself and the way that you show up, so that it can all be in alignment. Now, this is where I find when we work in community, it can be so helpful, because often we have an idea of what it is that we want, but it's very difficult to kind of nail it down and get really, really specific. And also sometimes you just don't have an idea of what possibilities are available, right? And so I find when you are in a community with other women, this allows us, as we learn from each other, as we resonate and engage with each other, new possibilities and new vistas start opening. So step number 1 is to get clear on what it is that you desire. Step number 2 then is to identify where you are now. What is the gap between who you are now and who it is that you need to step into? It will be very interesting if you begin to explore then, once you've identified kind of where you are now, what are your responses? How are you currently showing up? What kind of decisions is it that you're making? How are you engaging when it comes to sales and marketing and doing like all this stuff, the machinery stuff that is going to move your business forward? And then if you imagine yourself to be this version of you that has already arrived at that end point in your goal, what happens to you internally? What happens in your body when you imagine yourself as that woman? Does it feel like something that's easy to achieve? Does it feel wonderful, or does it feel like scary and it feels like you can't yet get there, or it feels like something is in the way? This is all somatic data that we want to work with. That brings us into step 3. Once you have got a collection of what this data is, we begin to unravel it in the nervous system. Again, when we're only going to use mindset work, if you're only going to use affirmations or journaling, or even just pushing through and acting as if and showing up as that version of you already, but you don't work with what is held in the nervous system, your nervous system always wins. And it's like an elastic. You can only pull that elastic so far before it's going to slip out of your finger and it's going to bounce back and hit you. Your nervous system is doing this because its primary job is to keep you safe. It needs to keep the status quo as is, because it knows that everything in your experience, it has survived that. And so this experience is good for you, even if that's not what you want for your life and your business anymore. This is not something that you can teach over a podcast episode, but I can give you the steps of how you can get there. Really go deeply into this in the Magnetic Visibility Accelerator. The next round is in September. The waitlist is already open. If you are on the waitlist, the price for waitlist is €555. The next round is going to be more expensive. So make sure that you get your name on the guest list, on the waitlist. I'm going to leave a link for you in the show notes. We dive into the body, right? This is what we do in step 3, which I teach more in depth in my course, is how to dive into the body, how to unravel what is held in the body, the contraction and the tension that is there, and how to open that into flow. Whenever we are bumping into hesitancy, whenever we're hitting wobbles, always think of it as blocks of cement that's in your system, and it's actually preventing your life force energy from flowing. So what we want to do in step 3 is to clear those blocks of cement so that you can have access to the full expression of you, to your full life force energy, because in that lies your creativity, in that lies your actualization, and in that lies your brilliance, right? With so much power, imagine what can become possible for you in your business. Then step number 4, once we've cleared all of this and we have created that space and that flow, the next step is for you to start looking for proof in your life of where you are already showing up and receiving and achieving and accomplishing as this version of you. Remember how I said earlier, our confirmation bias, what it does is it keeps on showing us what we believe to be true. What you want to do now in step 4 is you want to start training your brain that something new is becoming true for you. And you want to employ the brain's filtering system to start finding those things for you so that this becomes unconscious. We want to take the conscious and make it unconscious. This is where mastery lies. And then step 5 is we actually rehearse this. We bring this into the 3D world. The next time that you need to make a decision about something, it doesn't matter how big or small your decision is, when you make the decision before you commit, you recall this vision of you and who you need to be to step into that version of yourself to get the results that you desire. And ask yourself, how would that version of me choose? What would her decision be? All right, so you're starting to try on this new role and see how it fits. The next time that you need to create a piece of marketing, a post, or record a podcast episode, you ask yourself, going back to that North Star, how will this version of me, if I was truly embodying this version of me that I have the dream and the vision and the goal of, how would she show up? How would she express herself? And then if you hit any wobbles or any hesitancy, you go back to step 2 and step 3. Where are you now? What is currently happening in your body? Step 3, you unravel what is happening in your body, remove the tension and free up some space so your life force can flow again. You start looking for confirmation of where you have done this successfully, and you bring it into your world. So the framework is a cycle. It keeps on repeating itself. It doesn't have a specific endpoint. Because the thing is, every new level of your business is going to ask for a new level of identity. That version of you who has booked a few clients at the start of your business, it's not the same version of you that is going to have consistent revenue every month. That version of you who has started getting 3 or 5K months, it's not the same version of you that's going to get consistent 15K months. Like most transformational things, identity work is not something that you just do once and then your identity is set in stone, that new next level, and that's the end of the road. No, it's something that you're always going to come back to. And this is why having a framework to do the identity work, to evolve into that next version of you sustainably, is something that is so helpful. And this is what I'm teaching in my Magnetic Visibility Accelerator. So remember, the waitlist is open right now. The next round starts in the beginning of September. We're running for 4 weeks. It's all online on Zoom. It's all recorded. So even if you can't be there live, you can have access to the recordings. So if you are at that stage in your business where you are ready to go to the next level, you want to be more confidently visible, you want to express from your full self and really draw in those clients that are the dream clients to work with, and you want to do it in a way that is easeful and profitable, then make sure that you get your name on the waitlist. This brings us to the end of today's episode. I would love to hear how this landed for you. After you've dropped your name on the waitlist, then you can send me a quick DM. Links for that in the show notes as well. And tell me your biggest takeaways from today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I appreciate you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.